Hey guys, so just giving you guys an update. Like the title of the video says, IVF is canceled for this month. And the reason IVF is canceled this month is for a lot of reasons. Biggest reason is financial. So, when it was presented to me by my clinic what the cost of IVF would be, it was going to be in conjunction with insurance. Well, that's true, except for they wanted payment before we started my stem meds, which was supposed to be this week. I've been on birth control for the last 3 weeks. And they needed my stem meds started on. It was supposed to actually be on Saturday. I was supposed to start my stem meds, and so they needed that before they started my stem meds. So they technically needed it yesterday, which was the 23rd. So I was a little taken back because they wanted the full cycle. So they wanted the full cycle, and then when they ran the insurance, they were going to reimburse me for what the insurance covered. Well, a full cycle without insurance is over $30,000. And I don't have that. I don't have access to that kind of money. There's no way I was going to be able to raise it in the week and a half that they gave me, because they let me know the week of the 12th that it would do, and so gave me about a week and a half. So I told him, I said, well, I can't do that. I'm like, can you run the insurance? And I was like, well, we're running the insurance, but just in case the insurance denies it, we're going to need the full amount, which is fair, of course. So I didn't hear anything all last week. And when I didn't hear anything all last week, I spent my Friday kind of calling around and trying to figure out what was going on. So, long story short, insurance actually approved the IVF cycle. They approved everything, which is great. Fantastic. But in the interim, while trying to find that out, I also got some bad news about my meds. So, there's specific meds that you need to take when you are doing an IVF cycle to, again, increase your follicles. So typically you're supposed to have a couple follicles every month, and then one becomes dominant. I have an issue with low egg reserve, and so I don't have as many follicles as you're supposed to have anyway. And so definitely needed to have stem meds, because the stem meds are basically what help get all the follicles you need for retrieval. The whole idea is you basically amp up your follicle production, and then they do an egg retrieval, and when they do the egg retrieval, they take out everything they can, and then they find out how many eggs you actually have. So I have to do those meds, and those meds are not typical meds. They're specialty meds. They're not something you can just get at a normal pharmacy. And a lot of times they're not covered by insurance because they are specialty med. They are, again, quote unquote, elective, because IVF, having a child, is an elective choice. You know, when you're going through it medically, you are choosing to try to have a child. It's not like having a child naturally. So, one of my meds wasn't covered. One med wasn't covered because it wasn't my insurance and preferred med, which is fine. It was only about $120. It wasn't a big deal. Another one of my meds wasn't covered because the insurance said, oh, you didn't do enough. You didn't do enough IUIs with this particular medication, so we're not going to cover it. Okay. And then another med was covered, and that was still $1,400. Now, the med that wasn't covered because I didn't do enough of a specific medication. I was like, okay, well, how much is it going to be? So the pharmacy that my insurance uses was $6,000 for 30 vials because it's an injectable. Yeah, no, I definitely can't do $6,000. And so I called another pharmacy. They could charge me a flat rate per vial. That was still $2,600. So, $2,600, and so with the $1,400, that would put my meds at over $3,000. I also haven't bought my sperm yet, so that's another $1,100 to $1,400. So for those who can count, that is over $4,000 for just meds and sperm, not even counting the $30,000 for the actual IVF treatment. And even if you half that, split it down the middle, insurance covers half that. That's about $15,000. That still, you add the four, that's $20,000 in for one cycle, where I could get 0 eggs. Like I could get 10 eggs, and by process of elimination, I get 0 healthy embryos. Okay. So I would like, well, I can't do IVF. I financially cannot do it. Now I can do another IUI cycle because I can afford it. One of the arguments again was for the medication that got denied. I didn't use enough of the medication. I also wasn't 30. I also wasn't 37. Well, when I would have done this, because I would have done it in February, which would have been about 3 weeks before my birthday. I turned 37 on March 1st. So I am going to do an IUI. And on top of this, to kind of make everything else great, I have been on birth control. However, I actually got my cycle this month. It was very short. It was actually very irregular. So the hormone probably helped trigger some stuff. And so I actually got my cycle again for the second time in a month. And that also would have moved everything up on top. So not only would I not going to be able to make it by the date that they needed it for the normal set cycle, I definitely wasn't going to be able to make it financially for the amount that they wanted for the non-set cycle, for this new timeline. We actually had to move everything up, probably by about a week, about 4 to 7 days, so about a week. Would have had to move everything up. I definitely wouldn't have had time. I wouldn't have had time to take my med. I wouldn't have had time to do anything. So it my cycle also kind of made that determination for me. So I decided to do the IUI, and that meant that I had to have an ultrasound. And the ultrasound came back. I had it on Sunday, and the ultrasound came back with I actually have 2 cysts on my right ovary. I mean, my right ovary is typically really hard to find on ultrasound. My normal ultrasound is kind of have to do some witchcraft. I'm joking. To find it, because it does like to hide. But it would boom, 2 cysts, boom, right there. And because we were going to do what's called a medicated cycle, we were not doing a natural cycle. We were doing a medicated cycle. It basically meant that we couldn't do it, because what happens when you take those meds and you have a cyst is the cyst takes, a lot of times, takes all the meds and will suck it all up, and basically the cyst will grow, but not the follicles like we want it to. And so I couldn't do that either. Really bummed, really upset by that. But that's how it is. So I'm talking to my doctor, and we're going to see what we can do. So I don't know what is going to happen, because technically I turned 37 in just over a month. And when I turn 37, it may eliminate a lot of the stuff that made the cycle not covered, because I will have hit that age, and I should be able to have my meds more covered than they were. They may still be several $1,000s, because of just their specialty meds, but it may give us more coverage. I don't know if I'm going to do another IUI or if we're going to do IVF. It's hard, because you can't just call up your insurance and be like, hey, are you going to cover this? Because the answer is, well, we may or may not cover it, and it's just a lot. And so I don't know. I've also toyed with the idea of doing a home insemination this month, because again, there's nothing. The only reason we are not doing an IUI is strictly because we were going to do meds. If I actually was doing a normal IUI, it may not have meant anything. It may not have done anything. We may have just continued with an IUI. But the reason we were going to do a medicated cycle was so we could have more coverage for this medication that I need to take. So I don't know what the future holds right now. I do know I'm still going to continue to pursue to try to get pregnant. And I don't know if doing another IUI is in the works, or if I need to just move to IVF. I should be able to do IVF in March. Try again. Yeah, I'm not sure. And I talked to my nurse too, because we're gonna miss this cycle, and next cycle I actually am. I'm not gonna be in town likely with my next cycle, and so we also have to talk about kind of ways to manipulate my cycle accordingly. It's hard. I'm just this, we're a month into this journey, and I'm not a month, a year into this journey, and it kind of feels like it's never ending. I was talking to a girlfriend, and who's about the same age as I am, and we were talking about how much, it's not talked about, how much infertility is not talked about, how much women aren't prepared for the idea of infertility. Most women take their infertility for granted, or their fertility for granted, because it's something that you kind of always think it's going to be there. You never think it's not going to be there. You always assume that it's going to be easy, right? It was easy for your mom, it was easy for your sister, it was easy for your cousin, it was easy for your best friend. It's going to be easy for you to have a baby. And that's just not how a lot of it is, especially when you are older. They don't call it, geriatric pregnancy anymore. It's now advanced maternal age. But it's still trying to have a baby in my mid-30s, past the age of 35. And I, unfortunately, happen to be one of those women who my egg reserve is down. And, maybe it was like that for my whole family, but I will never know, because every other woman in my family had their children and were done rearing children by their mid-20s. So, on my mom's side and on my other side of my family, there was a couple who had children a little bit later, and I don't know what their story is, if they had harder time, but from where I came from, they got pregnant pretty quick too, and into after they settled down into relationships. So I am not defeated. I'm still hopeful. I still haven't had time to stop feeling yet. I'm still not there yet to where it's like, okay, you need to stop. This is all still very doable. It just more roadblocks than one wants to have to deal with. But anyway, thanks for sticking around for this slightly longer than normal video. I appreciate your time. Always like, share, and subscribe for me, and comment. The only way I can grow the channel, it's the only way I can help more people by sharing my story. All right, bye. Thank you.